Okay, we ready to roll?
Shine, we have a minion.
Shine, we got the minion? All right.
Ravara, we see you and we can.
Okay, fine, good.
Okay, let's go. So, Zok the Mishna, yeah? Again, Motzei Tisha B'Av will be about a quarter to 10, 10 to 10, something in that area, says the Shem. Okay, so we're on Testament Beis, which means we're already halfway through today's daf, so we got to make a little hay towards tomorrow's daf. Yeah, so Oisus Sukkot Tachas Ha'ilon. Somebody makes a sukkah under a tree. Yeah, so Ki'ilu Asab B'Teichabayis is as if they made it inside the house, which we'll see in the Gemara. Why the Gemara uses such a lashon, right?
Okay, Tiago, I spotlighted your video because we hear you through the phone. We don't see you.
You don't see me? It's not having good service?
No. The way it works is it picks up
Now I
whoever's
see you.
talking. So it picks up your phone, your cell phone number, not your face. So.
No, I'm just afraid
Don't
that
worry
the
about
internet
it.
is spotty. I'm just afraid the internet is spotty, so I don't want it to share, so I'm on the phone also. Yeah, okay, so again, if you make a sukkah under the tree, it's as if you make it inside the house.
Yeah, I'm
Sukkah
sorry.
Gabi
I'm sorry.
Sukkah.
Where are you? We
Oh, come
Testament
on.
Beis on the Mishna.
You know, delay the gayers.
Okay, anyway, good. So again, if you made it in the house. Sukkah Gabi Sukkah. One sukkah on top of the other sukkah. The top one is kosher. The bottom one is puzzle. If there's nobody living in the top one and the bottom one's kosher, so the obvious question is going to be, who cares whether there's somebody actually living in there or not? It should be telling whether the sukkah is under another sukkah. Right? So again, so Sukkah Gabi Sukkah is the Machlokes. Right? The Tanakhama says the top one's kosher, the bottom one's puzzle. The Yehuda says depends if they could hold. That's what the Gemara is going to say. It's going to really depend on if the bottom schach can hold a person. Okay, so already the Gemara is going to end up saying pillows, but we'll see. This that you're not allowed to put a sukkah under a tree. Testament Beis. Gemara Testament Beis. Yeah, because we did an Amud for last night. We're trying to get ahead so we don't fall too far behind. Right, so again, we're only talking about a tree that gives more shade than sun. So therefore, that's considered like a house, which we'll see. But if the shade of the tree doesn't give too much and there's more sun than shade, then the sukkah under the tree is going to be kosher. Why not? I'm saying it's the schach, the tree, the shade from the tree is not going to be kosher schach anyways. So how do we know this? It's as if you made it inside the house. Right? Why do you have to say why don't you just say, right? Listen, psula. Why don't you just say psula? If you put a sukkah under a tree, it's possible. Why are you saying it says if you made it in the house? The reason why the Mishnah is telling that the Yusuf is saying the Elon Dumya the bias that a tree is similar to a house. Not bias just like a house. It has more shade than sun. I'm sorry, a house has more shade than sun, I hope. Bungalow is not included in this, right? So a tree also, in order for it to be a problem, has to have more shade than sun. So the Gemara says, okay, but that shouldn't help either. And even if there's more sun than shade coming from the tree, so what? How come it's started schach possible? Basically, the schach that's giving you the shade from the tree is schach possible, right? Because it's attached to the ground. And then you're going to have to mix it with the shade of and then you're mixing it together with the schach. How come it started schach possible? Schach kosher. We're combining schach possible with that schach kosher. Right, and therefore it's going to make the whole sukkah possible. Yeah. Yeah, I'm still with you on the phone. Yes, even though my internet crashed.
Yes, we got you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah. So we're saying, so you're going to have mixed in, even though Lamaisa, the Sukkah is going to be kosher if there's a majority of schach, if the majority of the shade comes from the schach, right? But the bottom line is that the Gemara seems to be saying that in all scenarios, if you have more sun than shade, the Sukkah is going to be kosher from the tree. If there's more sun than shade from the tree, then the Sukkah is going to be kosher, which may not necessarily be so.
More shade.
So Omar, what are you saying?
What did you just say, Rabbi Yaakov?
Meaning the Gemara is saying that even if you have more sun than shade coming from the tree, that's still schach puzzle. That's getting mixed in with your schach kosher.
But if
Right?
I have
Therefore, it should be a problem.
more, if I still have 60% schach kosher, what's the difference?
Oh, exactly. So if you have 60% schach kosher, then that should be a problem. That should not be a problem, correct?
Right, just because I have schach puzzle mixed in, so what?
Exactly, right, exactly. So what the Mefarshim say is that no, because the Gemara, it seems to be saying that as long as there's more sun than shade coming from the tree, then even if you need the shade from the leaves that are attached to the tree, your sukkah is still going to be kosher. And how could it still be kosher? Part of your schach is schach puzzle. But you're 100% right. If your sukkah is kosher, even without the tree, then it's no problem. This is a big issue with when people put the sukkah under the trees.
Right.
Right? So now you have to try and figure out, is the sukkah kosher without the trees or not kosher? It's very difficult because you have to stare up at the tree and you have to look at it as if the branches drop down on top of the sukkah. And now you have to figure out, do you have a more soft kosher than that tree? Right? That becomes a whole headache. Anyway, so that's the Gemara's kasha. The bottom line is that it's very nice that your tree is giving more sun than shade, but the actual leaves are pasul schach. How can you use pasul schach in your sukkah? So Rav Papa says, no, we're talking about where you took the leaves from the tree and you dropped it down on top of the sukkah. Right? So now it's actually mixed in with your kosher schach. And we know, Rashi says that in midday raisa, it's batal b'roiv. Your schach pasul is batal b'roiv in the schach kosher. So therefore it's okay. Because even if there is schach pasul mixed in, the majority of your schach is from schach kosher. Gemara says, so if you're saying that you pulled it down and it's mixed in with your schach, so what's the chiddush? Well, why should it be a problem? You have a majority of schach kosher. My answer is no, maybe you should make a gzeira that maybe you're not going to drop your tree down and you're going to have a problem. So we should make it a gzeira that if you have schach pasul mixed in with your schach kosher, it should make the sukkah pasul. So kamash malon the loigas rinin. So we say that there's no gzeira. The Gemara is asked, Hanami Tanina. We already learned this, that we're not going to make a gzeira. Hillel so gefen ves the last is kisim. We're going to have this later. Kisus, I'm sorry. If you take a vine, right? Any schach that's attached to the ground is pasul. So let's say you take a vine, right? And a talas is a gourd vine, and a kisus is a ivy. The sikach al gavan, and then you put it over your sukkah. Psulat pasul. But if you put a lot more schach than that, right? That's the way you translate it is not more schach than, meaning more. If you put on more of these vines, no, that's not what it is. If you have more kosher schach than these vines, or if you cut them off from the ground, then your sukkah is going to be kosher, right? So the Gemara says, hey, tell me what's the case? If you didn't mix these vines into the rest of your schach, how come it's schach pasul and schach kosher? Then you're combining schach pasul with schach kosher, and it should be no good. Elulav, shekeshachavtim, we're talking about where you mix it all in, so it's going to be batal b'roiv. The shmami, no, the legazina. We see from this, and we're not going to make the gzera. We're going to say that your sukkah is kosher, right? The one answers no mal the same. When is your sukkah kosher? If b'diavad you realize that you mixed in vines that were attached to the ground, right? But to tell somebody lichatchila that he could take vine and mix it into his schach, maybe you're not going to allow him to do it because maybe he's not going to mix it in. He's going to leave it hanging over the schach. Kamash malon that is not a problem. Yeah? So all the way around, bottom line is if you take schach pasul from a tree and you lower it down on top of your sukkah. As long as you have a majority of not kosher, then your sukkah is going to be kosher. If you don't have a majority, then obviously the sukkah is going to be puzzle unless you cut off the vine. Okay? Fine. Sukkah can't be sukkah. Yeah.
I don't think you're ready to pass in shilas now, but I remember you say if there's anything hanging from a tree over your sukkah, it's no good.
What are you saying?
I think you've said in the past, halacha l'maisa, if there's any branches, the tree hanging over your sukkah, that it's no good. The schach.
You have a tree. Yeah, right. So it depends on how much of the tree is hanging over.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. Okay, fine.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, each. We're gonna have more of this. We're gonna have more of this later. Yeah. So talk to Gemara weiter. Right. So the sukkah got be sukkah. So if the sukkah got be sukkah, so we said that the top one is kosher, the bottom one is puzzle. Yes, it's on Rabbanon Pasukas Teishu. It says Pasukas. Well, we're going to see that it's questionable whether it's spelled with the extra vav or without the extra vav. But it says the person should sit in the sukkah. V'loy b'sukkah shetachas a sukkah, and not in a sukkah under a sukkah. V'loy b'sukkah shetachas ilan, and not with a sukkah that's under a tree. V'loy b'sukkah shetachas a bayis, and not a sukkah in a house, because it says b'sukkah, one sukkah, sit in one sukkah. One type of sukkah, one that's open to the sky, not one that's under something else. The Gemara says, Adarava, but sukkah, it's spelled with a vav, tarti mashma. That's mashma, two sukkahs are kosher. Right? So at least two of these should be kosher, not just one. So Rav Nachman Yitzchak, pasukas, no, it says it without the vav, like we had a couple of blot ago. Since it says it without the vav, even though it's pronounced with the vav, but since it says it without the vav, that tells you one type of sukkah is kosher, only one that's open to the air. If it's in a house, if it's under a tree, or it's under another sukkah, then that's no good.
What are the old
Okay, yeah, so that's the question. Do we darshan out? First,
I'm saying, according to the Mandiyamar,
didn't we use this? Didn't we use this already to darshan some? Yeah, didn't we use this to darshan something else too already?
And I'm
We
saying
used it twice already.
What?
We've used it twice already. Apparently, it's not an issue.
Right. So what?
Right, but
right,
I'm saying,
so, no,
according to
what's the
Mandiyamar, Yeshem and Messiris, even forget about using it. Stam, he would learn that you learn a Sukkos means plural.
That's Yanochanami, 100% right.
So then why would he hold that as two sukkahs are good, one inside of another?
What?
Would it come out that you hold two sukkahs are good?
According to that sheet, it sounds like it would have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's divide. So now we go through a whole bunch of scenarios. Amud of Yirmiyah. Now we're talking about a sukkah under a sukkah. Right? So pa'amim sheshtein ksheira, sometimes they're both kosher, pa'amim sheshtein psula, sometimes they're both puzzle. Pa'amim sheshtein ksheira, pa'al psula, sometimes the bottom one's going to be kosher, the top one's going to be puzzle. Pa'amim sheshtein psula, sometimes the bottom one's going to be puzzle, pa'al ksheira, and sometimes the top one's going to be kosher. So we have basically four variations over here. Right? You have again a sukkah under a sukkah, you have four variations. Sometimes the bottom's kosher, the top not, etc., etc. Okay, now Gemara goes through all the scenarios. Sometimes both sukkahs are kosher. The bottom sukkah, its schach gives off more sun than shade. So its schach is non-existent because it gives off more sun than shade, so it's non-existent. And the top one is it's got more shade than sun. The kaimel yoina b'seichesem, and the top sukkah is within 20 amas. Since it's with 20 amas, so the top one's kosher, and the bottom one's also kosher. So if somebody sits in the bottom one, he's fine, right? Which is a little tricky because it's not a bottom sukkah. It comes out that the bottom sukkah is not a sukkah, right? He's sitting in the top sukkah. I guess just because visually it looks like two different sukkahs, but that's not what it is. Yeah. By the way, Akiva, I totally forgot. Do you see the Tzitzis, the second to bottom Tzitzis?
Yeah, is that?
He's saying like you're kasha with the. He's saying that even the mandamar that says Yeshem lemikra, Maid is a loy lechinam nechta, but I don't know how he fits it in with the previous Gemara. Anyway, okay, whatever it is.
The
So
20,
that's the first scenario where both will be kosher. What?
with the top sukkah,
do you count, is it 20 amas from the bottom of the one sukkah or?
Excellent, Harold. Thank you for reminding me. I'm mamish. When I was going through the Gemara right before the shir, I was like, what? I was doing it with Chavrus. I was doing it with Avi's son, and he asked, is it from the floor or is it from the thing? The pashtus is it should be from the wherever their people are sitting. No. You know what Harold's asking? He's saying, where do you calculate 20 amas? From the floor or from the floor of the bottom of the schach of the bottom sukkah? Right? I'm not sure. L'chara would depend on where the person is sitting.
I mean, the footnote
hear.
here says 20 amos above the floor of the lower sukkah.
That's the floor. That's
Right.
the floor. That's the pashtus, because I can't imagine how somebody's sitting on a schach that's got more sun than shade. I don't know if it's just, like plain and practical. Right? I don't know. Okay, very good. Okay, so that's scenario number one. Then the next one is 4 lines up in the bottom. Sometimes both sukkahs are possible. How are you going to have that? Going to both schachs, the bottom sukkah schach and the top sukkah schach, have more shade than sun. And the top sukkah is above 20. So the top sukkah is possible. The bottom sukkah is possible because it's sukkah tachat sukkah, and the top sukkah is possible because it's above 20. Fine. That's in the bottom one is kosher, and the top one is possible. On Talmud Aleph, what's the case? The bottom sukkah has more shade than sun. And the top one, has more sun than shade. And both of them are within 20. Right? So since the bottom one has more shade than sun, so therefore, it's going to be kosher, and the top one's going to be possible because it's above 20 amas. Yeah. Then the last case is the top one's going to be kosher, the bottom one's going to be possible. Hey, what's the case? Both of them have more shade than sun, so we know the bottom one's possible because it's sukkah tachat sukkah, and the upper one and the top one is within 20. So the bottom one is possible, and the top one's kosher. So what's this pshita? All these cases are pashut. What's the chiddush? I'm not sure all of us would agree that this is pashut, but the Gemara clearly thinks that all these cases are simple. Pshita, the Gemara says pshita. No, the last case. Sorry, the second to last case, where the bottom one is kosher, the top one is puzzle, is what we needed. Because my is the same, but you might think zera dilma mitzvah schach puzzle, but hadis schach kosher. Like we said before, maybe you're going to combine the schach kosher, right, which is puzzle. I'm sorry, the schach puzzle with the schach kosher, meaning the schach puzzle from the upper sukkah, which had more sun than shade, together with the schach kosher on the bottom, and you're going to, therefore, it should make it puzzle. Kamash Malan. So we say no, that we're not going to make that sort of gezerah, and since the bottom sukkah has kosher schach, then it's going to be kosher, even though the top sukkah does not have, even though the top sukkah has some puzzle schach that you might end up combining with the bottom, but we're not going to make that gezerah. Yeah.
It's
You want to say something? Yeah.
Look at Rashi the Ramaskal stay in Psulis.
Where? Back on the Beis?
No, I'm out.
Over here?
Yeah. So 2-line Rashi.
Oh, here he says Gaga. Yeah, so does this change from case to case, or is that for all the cases?
The Pasha says it changes case to case.
It seems like there's 2 gersois in Rashi.
Well, that's yeah. I'm not sure. But meaning is that case only?
I think that's the Pasha. Only that case.
Maybe.
Otherwise, it's not different than the first case.
Yeah. What time is the mincha? What time is mincha for the island?
6:30 by us over here.
Okay, so let's get moving a little bit. Yeah. Okay, so now the Gemara has a different kasha. How much space do you need between one sukkah and another sukkah? Right? Meaning, how do you know that 2 layers of schach are not sukkah tachas a sukkah? Right? A lot of people put 2 layers of schach. Yeah, you put a bunch of bamboos or whatever, and you put down a bunch of extra. Why is that not a sukkah? Sukkah meaning how much measurement?
So Yaakov, you could say easy.
Between one schach and the other.
Yaakov, you could say even easier
go
than
ahead.
that. You could say that just people today with mats, they overlap a lot of each other.
Correct. So is that a sukkah tachas? 100% right, exactly. Is that a sukkah tachas a sukkah? So we're gonna have three opinions of how much space. The Kami
He was
Yehei,
trying to
sukkah
stay
l'sukkah
away from the
tachas.
mats, Aaron.
You're right.
Rabbi Aaron, I have to
long.
add in a little controversy. You know what I mean? I got to keep it.
Yeah,
I just
the lace
realized
mat,
that you said
especially.
mats. I thought you were wearing 2 masks.
All right, that's
No.
very schwach there, George. Very schwach.
There's a delay. There's a delay there.
Yeah, listen. You don't know. They're coming out with, I'm telling you, they're coming out with lace mats that are very light on the sukkah. A little latzanas and Erev Tisha B'Av.
Don't
Okay.
make a joke. In LA, they put back the rules of masks indoors again. It's not so far fetched that New York is going to be right back there. Not a joke.
All right.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll stay up here.
Aaron, how much you
With our
giving
good-
to
with our good
Polo's
internet
campaign, Aaron?
Not enough, Rabbi Aaron. Not enough.
Okay, so let's divide this. So again, kama yeh ben sukkah l'sukkah v'tei tachtoin psula. How much space has to be between each sukkah that the bottom one is puzzled? It has to be a tefach. Shekem etzinu ba'alei tumah tefach. Like we had this 5 blot ago, right? That for oil tumah is a tefach, meaning we said that if you have a mace, a dead body inside a sukkah, inside a house, it's a sukkah too maybe, but inside a house. Right? So as long as there's a tefach of space in between the mace and the ceiling, right, then anything going above the roof is going to be blocked, right? And then it's going to also spread tumah throughout the whole house. Yeah. So what's the shear? Is a tefach. So the Gemara is saying the Tanya tefach al tefach for room tefach maybe it's a tumah. If there's a tefach height by the width of a tefach, then that's going to make the tumah travel throughout the house. The chaytis b'nei tumah, it's also going to be chaytis. It's going to separate the tumah from anything flying above, like a plane flying above the house would not become tumah because there's a tefach of space between the mace. Whatever it is, you see that it's a tefach. It's a shear. Avapachas mirum tefach loy maybe v'loy chaytis. If it's less than the height of a tefach, then it's not going to make the tumah travel around the house, but it's also not going to block the tumah. Right? So each one has an advantage and disadvantage. Meaning, if you have an arm of space in between the mace and the ceiling, so then it's going to give tumas mace throughout the whole house, but it's not going to go above the house. If you have less than an amma, it's going to go above the house, but it's not going to go within the house. Whatever it is, you see that the measurement is an amma. So therefore, if you have 1 amma of space in between the 2 schach, then it's going to be puzzle, which we don't have when you pile up the schach, which is why piling up the schach is not a problem of sukkah sukkah. But Rav Chisda v'Rabba bar Rav Huna Amri Arba, it's 4 tefachim. Shloim Basinu Makom Kosher Pachas Me Arba. Right? We don't see that there's anything less than 4 by 4. Like in Shabbos, we don't like a Makom Patur. Anything less than 4 by 4, like if you want to put it down on the mailbox and all those type of things, if it's less than 4 by 4, then it doesn't have any chashivas to it. Right? Rashi says, "Linu Shasayochin in a Kabbalah." And Shmuel was the most makel sheet of Shmuel Amar Asara. 10 tefachim. My time at the Shmuel, because the same measurements you have to make a sukkah kosher, you have to make it possible. Just like to make it kosher is with 10, also to make it possible is with 10. Yeah, so that's the three pshatim, either a tefach, 4 tefachim, or 10 tefachim. Fine. Now we deal with Rabbi Yehuda, who said in the Mishnah that as long as nobody can, if it can't hold, and if nobody lives on the top sukkah, then it's no problem. If there's nobody living in the top one, the bottom one's kosher. My ain't the urine. What does it mean there's nobody living in there? If you say that it means people living in there, up to the urine kagarmi. So let's say you have a vacancy in your top sukkah, right? Let's say you decided you're making real estate. You got 2 sukkahs, but you have a vacancy for sukkah, right? They decide to go to a hotel program instead of staying in your second story sukkah. Does that mean your sukkah, the bottom sukkah is kosher? Right? That don't do with whether somebody's actually living in there. Can it hold somebody or not? So that can't be shot. Right? So my ain't the urine. What does it mean there's nobody living there? People living in there is what's causing the din. Elalav my ain't the urine. If it's not roy to live, What's the case? The like where the top sukkah is not 10 tvachim high. So what's okay? So the Mechlal, the Tanakama Sova, must be the Tanakama holds Avapisha Ruya Ladira Psula. That even if it's not Roy Ladira, it's puzzle. Right? So that means, and L'chaira, we go with the Tanakama. So Shmuel says 10 tvachim, right? And he says it has to be 10 tvachim. If it's less than 10 tvachim, that's not called Sukkah Tachas Sukkah. That's not like the Tanakama, who we usually paskin like. So what is Shmuel going to do with this din? Right? Again, according to the Tanakama, the word of Gemara is saying it is, since Rabbi Yehuda is saying that it needs to have 10 tvachim, that means in order to be puzzle, that means the Tanakama holds even less than 10 tvachim is puzzle. Shmuel just said 10 tvachim. Shmuel can't go against the Tanakama. The Gemara says, "Ki asur avdimi Omar Ami b'Marava." They say Marava meina tachtoni yechaylu lekabel karam l'ksasa shel yoina hatachtoni kshera. What it means is if the bottom sukkah is not able to, you're not able to put pillows and blankets, which are very light. If you're not able to rest pillow and blankets on the schach of the bottom sukkah, then the bottom one is kosher, because that means that the schach is not strong enough to be considered a sukkah under a sukkah. The Gemara asks, the father Tanakama over does that mean that Tanakama is going to say that even if it can't hold pillows, it's going to be puzzle? Right? So then, if that's the case, he's going to puzzle it even if you can't hold 10 tfachim. So what is the Tana going to say? So what's Shmuel going to say? So what it says, the difference between the two opinions, right, is if you can put pillows and blankets on there if necessary, right? You can put it on there if necessary, right? Rabbi Yehuda is going to say it's kosher, since it's the bottom line. It can theoretically. When I'm mixing up the shitas. Right. I'm sorry. No, right. If it can only barely hold the pillows and blankets, so according to Rabbi Yehuda, that's still going to be kosher, because that's not called somebody living there. But the Tanakama is going to say that it's still considered sukkah tachas sukkah. Yeah. Okay. So that's that. The bottom line is Rabbi Yehuda. It's probably in how much can the schach hold, and we're going with like a minimum weight. Now it doesn't say whether it's a feather pillow or this pillow. It doesn't make a difference. If it can hold pillows, then it's going to be fine. If it doesn't hold pillows, then not. Okay, let's do a little bit more. Look, the Mishna. Let's say you spread out a sheet, totally under your schach, a sheet, not under your entire schach, or under it because you didn't want the neshar, means the branches, the leaves are falling down, and you don't want it to get into your food. So that's one case. Or if you spread out, you have a four-legged bed, with a canopy. So now when you're sleeping in that bed, you're sleeping under the canopy, not the schach. So the Mishna says both those cases are possible because you have a sheet blocking you from the schach. But if you have a bed with a pole in the middle, so it makes it like a teepee, then that's not called a legitimate oil, and therefore that's not going to be considered blocking you from the sukkah. Yeah. So the Gemara says, this is one of the most wild halachas, and you tell this to people, they'll think you're totally nuts, right? This is only talking about because you're putting it there because you want to you want to do it for a technical reason. But if you're putting it there for beauty, like Noah's sukkah, you can take a sheet, put it across your sukkah, under your schach, and your sukkah is perfectly kosher. You don't even see schach. And this is the way we paskin. This is the way we paskin. We'll see Beis Hashem next week that what the requirements are. But the bottom line is, go invite somebody into your sukkah with a huge sheet of stars and moons and all that. If you're even allowed to do it, whatever it is, you put a sheet up there like that, and they're not going to eat in your sukkah. But the bottom line is it's kosher because it's there for beauty. So when it says pshita, it's kosher. The Mishnah says it's possible because you're putting it there for leaves, mashma, that for beauty it's fine. The Gemara says not the same. No, really, even if you put it up the sheet for beauty, it's a problem. The reason why it says just in the shor is just an example. That's just the regular way. Most people put up a sheet in the sukkah to catch the leaves. That's not the case. Fine. So let's say it's a proof to this. So let's say you put on a proper schach, the itra, and then you crown it. That's a literal translation, right? The kromen of sadin and and you put it with all sorts of sheets. The talaba guys in shkedim, a farsa can remind him, and you hang nuts, almonds, peaches, pomegranates, parchilia novim, clusters of grapes, itzvei shel shibalim, and grain, which is what people do. They write a lot of people have a minhag to hang fruits up in the sukkah. I think this is probably the source for it. Yeina, they hang up wine, shmonim, oil, fluctuates, flour. Also, the topic, man, you're not allowed to use them because it's muksa, right? If you want to hang up these fruits, you're not allowed to get any enough of them ad motzi yom tov achron shel chag until the last day of Sukkos when it loses its muksa status. But if you make a t'nai, then everything goes according to the t'nai. Meaning, when you hang up the wine, you make a t'nai that it's not really muksa, and you're able to drink some of the wine, and it doesn't come. Like we discussed this yesterday. This is not your classic muksa of Shabbos. It's chuksa l'mitzvasa. Since it became muksa to the mitzvah, you can't get any personal use. But if when you put it up, you make a t'nai that I'm letting it beautify the sukkah, it's not getting holiness, then you're allowed to do it. Right? But whatever it is, so what the kasha is, so you see you could put up sheets, right? So therefore it's a raya that you're allowed to put up sheets for beauty. And when it says no, dilma minatzad, now maybe that's talking about putting it on the wall. But if you put it under the schach, then that's going to be a problem. Yeah, okay, let's stop here. Okay, so we'll tomorrow, by Motzei Tisha B'Av, we'll be an Amud behind, Beis Hashem. Okay, everybody should have...
Yaakov, what time is Shir Motzei Tisha B'Av?
Around 10 to 10, probably. Quarter 10, 10 to 10.
But you just posted on the channel.
It's getting early.
After the fast. You can't do it on the fast. You're not allowed to learn. You have to do it after the fast.
I hear. Yaakov, if we're not allowed to learn, we're not allowed to learn.
The later the better.
That's right.
Tiago, I'm asking for
What
a
do you say,
friend.
Byron? What do you say?
I said, how can you tell?
What do you say, Parrot?
I'm asking for a friend. If you have tsar from learning, are you allowed to learn on Tisha B'Av?
Cora, finish the dishes, please.
Yaakov, I got a different challenge for you. Very quickly, Yaakov.
Yeah.
You know the chicken nuggets that you buy from the freezer, the Av Tov chicken nuggets? Can I put them in the warming drawer on Shabbos afternoon for my kid to eat?
In the warming drawer, no, it's very schwer.
Why? They're fully cooked.
No, but the problem is it's chazara because it's a way to cook. The warming drawers have the ability to cook. If it's schwer, it's schwer.
The warming
drawer
is on low. That doesn't matter, you're saying.
I know, but since it has the ability to adjust. Since it has but what's that? You don't have a crock pot?
It's not out for Shabbos, yeah. Why, a crock pot is better?
What?
A crock pot is better?
If you leave the same Shabbos, you have to make sure chazara. So put it on top of your crock pot.
I don't have a crock pot up for Shabbos.
All right, so I asked you.
No,
so
I don't have.
Cholent?
No cholent this week.
Should not be kairos.
He's getting ready, remembering the
Kosher last
Corbin.
night.
Right,
Wow.
exactly. Jesse.
What happened?
Jesse.
Naftali,
I
what
don't know
did
if
you
things are
say?
I said, I don't know if things are kosher last night. Now it's a Shiloh. No chilling.
No cholent this week. No. What do you have to fast on Sunday? I can't eat cholent on Shabbos.
It was on the Peretz's hashkacha.
Right.
It wasn't on the Aaron's hashkacha. Aaron gave hashkacha on the binyan. Peretz gave on the food. So you got to read the hashkacha cards we put out on the table.
All right, I'll tell you this. I gave that shkocha on the cowboy steaks. Peretz gave that shkocha on the brisket.
Okay, gotcha.
You decide which one you went with. So, Yaakov, you're saying that the chicken nuggets is the issue.
Yeah. I mean, you want to build a blech now and put tape and this.
No,
and
I don't want to.
Maybe, but it's not.
What about putting blintzes in the warming drawer? Milking dick of blintzes.
And you can't put anything in there because it's chazara. You're doing chazara on top of something that potentially could cook.
So putting potato kugel in there is an issue or not an issue?
What?
Putting potato kugel
Anything is an issue.
Putting anything in it. Anything.
I gotta run. Have a good Shabbos, everybody. L'chaim.
Shabbos.
So have a good Shabbos.
All right.
Good Shabbos, everyone.
Yeah, anything in the warming drawer is very sure. Okay.
But putting it on top of the crock pot is no problem.
Yes. Well, it's got to be a pot in it. Maybe put up your crock pot.
Okay, but
Doesn't
what
cost too
about
much
what
electric,
if
so
I
it'll be
put
very
in the
cheap?
Tiaka, what if I put in the oven and the warmer drawer underneath? Does that help with anything?
Huh?
If I put in the oven, if I open the oven and put the stuff in the oven, the warmer drawer is on underneath. Does that help?
It's a good question. I don't know. I'm not sure. Not sure.
Meaning the oven is off, the warmer drawer is on.
What?
I think he's thinking the problem is it's still Mexican commercial.
Uh-huh.
Right, that's the problem. I'm not sure.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Meaning it's like the oven is acting like a blech. I don't know. Maybe it's
Right,
okay.
but on top of the crock pot is not Mexican commercial. Putting something on top. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, but this is on top of a warmer drawer, Naftali.
Correct. No, that's why it's a good question. Because maybe it's but an oven is An oven is a way you cook. The problem is it's Mexican commercial.
Look at this
Even
guy.
though it's off.
Look at this guy. His mom is
No,
paskening already. Look at this
I'm
guy.
not paskening. It's only
Yaakov,
because I
look at
listen.
Naftali. Look at him.
It's only because I hear people
Rather.
asking. I sit by him and I hear what he says.
Mexican mavashal.
There you go.
Please, Naftali. Please. Naftali, your brother-in-law was just here. He had some potato kugel. Don't worry.
Which brother-in-law?
You only have one brother-in-law in the 5 towns for Yom Tov.
Oh, I forgot you're not in the mountains. Right, he's here by me. Okay, fine. Yeah, he's by. He came with a lot of food.
He came here for some potato kugel and we took care of her.
Yeah. Okay. Shkoyach. I went with the text. They asked today if they if they can come, and then the text said no. Normal people that come over are allowed to come, so they're here.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Good
See, I answered without asking.
People, have a good
Shabbos.
Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Have a good Shabbos.
Many
Thank you very
more
much.
together.
No.
Many more.
Yeah, amen.
Well,
You
Mr.
got what time did you get back?
About, I don't know, 12 o'clock today.
All right. What time did you leave?
I left at 1 in the morning. I got back at
You
11.
didn't get any
Right.
sleep.
Not much. I got about a half hour.